Okay, well, there's probably a whole bunch of different ways that the classical heresies were expressed, and we've done kind of a thumbnail sketch of all of them. But I want you to see that what we've established with these ways of doing Christology badly is we've paved the way to understanding why the Chalcedonian Creed is what it is. And so let's look at that creed together. This is the Chalcedonian Confession of Christology. Christ is one person in two natures, one nature being divine and one nature being human, and that these natures are without confusion or change and without division or separation. Now, if you look, every single one of the things that's in this statement is not designed to counter something that we've seen in the various heresies. Okay? So, for example, we've had several versions of Christology where it looks like Jesus is actually two people, right? Primarily Nestorianism, right? You remember Nestorianism where there's the Logos and then Jesus of Nazareth occupying one head, as it were. Well, the one person here says no, there's only one person. There's not two. There's not God and Jesus hanging out in one head. Okay? But then what about natures, right? Well, there's two different natures. And that goes against things like monophysitism, right? Which said, oh no, there's only one nature. Or Docetism, right? It says there's just the divine nature, right? No, there's one person with two separate natures. And those natures need to be specified. One is divine and one is human. Well, divine's important because that prevents adoptionism, right? Adoptionism says that Jesus was just a normal dude, just a really, really good human, and then becomes assumed because of Jesus' goodness. Well, no, Jesus from the very beginning has a divine nature, right? And then there's the notion that Jesus has a human nature, right? Because remember, Docetism says that Jesus is it's like, you remember the God bot, right? God's wearing a human flesh as like a costume, and that's what Jesus is. Well, no, Docetism, no, the nature is truly human. It's human nature. And then what's important about the final section is it shows how we make sense of that. How can you have one person one person unite two different natures? Well, there's no confusion or change, so the divine nature is 100% divine and the human nature is 100% human, which again goes against monophysitism, right? The Superman, this weird kind of divine-human combination, and yet also without division or separation, which, remember, Nestorius had God and Jesus in the same, right? No, there's no division, no separation, and also no confusion or change, meaning that we're pushed into what the tradition calls the doctrine of perichoresis, meaning that in order to make sense of Jesus being one person in two natures, those two natures have to be fully interpenetrative, right? They have to be mingled mingled completely, and yet never in such a way that we can't distinguish one from the other, right? They're both there without confusion or change, but they're also 100% indivisible. They can't be broken apart. And so you don't have Jesus with two voices in Jesus' head. You don't have a bizarre Superman. You don't have a normal, regular Jesus of Nazareth who then becomes God. You don't have a Jesus of Nazareth who doesn't have the same nature as the Father. You've got fully God, fully human being, one person Jesus. And again, to reiterate, why? What difference does it make? Why is this important? And the answer is because this is the only being who can save. We cannot come up with a telling of Jesus that can save humanity unless that Jesus can truly unite human nature and divine nature, unless that Jesus can truly represent humanity before the Father, Unless that Jesus can share the righteousness and purity of God and give access to human beings in a real transfer, real genuine access, in order to do all of the things that Scripture and the tradition claim that Jesus does in Jesus' life, death, and resurrection, Jesus must be this way. Otherwise, the gospel is fake and you are dead in your sins, to paraphrase Paul in 1 Corinthians 15. What does this mean? It means that we have some theological work to do. It might be the case. It might be the case that you believe that human beings are built the way that ancient people believe human beings are built. You believe that you've got some stuff. You've got an animal soul that governs your appetites and the regulations of your blood and whatnot. And you have a human rational soul that governs your intellect, to some extent your emotions, maybe regulates the emotions. I think emotions might be on the animal soul depending on the telling, but regulates the emotions, provides insight, whatnot. Maybe that's what you think human beings are, but chances are you don't. Chances are you are either a dualist, meaning that a human being is the confluence of like the ghost person and your body. You may even be a functional physicalist, meaning that you don't believe that humanity has a soul. You believe that human beings are made of stuff, and that's it. Like what it is to be human is to be a living human body, a human body where the blood is pumping and the brain is working. Those are probably the two most common views amongst Christians. And to some extent, I'd say most Christians are probably functionally somewhere in between. A lot of Christians will believe in a soul, but recognize how important the body is, or vice versa. Might think that primarily what's important is the body, but that there has to be something that gets us to heaven, right? And that's the soul, something like that. But whatever the case, you're either philosophically and theologically a dualist or a physicalist, a monadist, and you're functionally probably somewhere in between. There's very few of us who, 100% act as if physicalism or dualism is 100% true. But so that's where you are. Notice that this is not what you think human life is. In fact, you are aware in a way that the ancients weren't, that the brain inside your head has a lot to do. That's a brain inside a head. Has a lot to do with your intentional states, your ability to think, govern your passions, whatever. In fact, you probably know that your passions and your intellect are deeply intertwined in the brain. We know that there's no such thing as pure thought. That all thought is processed through the amygdala. I think it's the amygdala, the emotional processing center of the brain. So that when people talk about cold rational thought, it's not really that. We know that now. And so your notion of what it is to be human is probably very, very different from the notion of what it is to be human that our forebears at Chalcedon had. And what that means is that Christology today probably needs to be updated. We need to hopefully hold on to what matters about Chalcedon, but update it for an anthropology that we can believe in. Like when we think about Jesus, we don't think about Jesus having this human rational soul that was in charge of his animal soul that was animating his body. That's not how we think. We think of Jesus as like us. And however we think of ourselves and what we think about what it is to be a human being, we need to say that Jesus was that. And so we might have to reconfigure, and that's what we're going to do next week. So next week we're going to do some critiques of this these various views. But what we're always going to hold is we're going to say no matter what we do, we're going to make sure that we don't abandon the substance of Chalcedonian faith. And what is that? What we saw is that Chalcedon was going out of its way not to correct factual errors, although it did that, right? It was going out of its way to make sure that whatever we say about Jesus, Jesus truly saves. Jesus can represent humanity. Jesus is human. Jesus gives us access to genuine, true, real divine life. Jesus, the purity and righteousness of the Godhead flows from Jesus into us in the power of the Spirit. All of those things have to be held because that's what the substance of Chalcedonian faith is. It's not saying, we can all sit around and say, yeah, Jesus is one person and a human nature and a divine nature. What does that mean? That doesn't mean to us the same way it meant to them. Because to them, when they saw human nature, they were understanding you need to have a human rational soul and an animal soul. That's what human nature is. And divine nature is whatever it is that God is. Right? We don't think like that. And so we need to update without losing the core insight of Chalcedon, which is whatever we say about Jesus, Jesus must be able to save. And that's going to mean that Jesus needs to mediate divinity and humanity. And so next week, we're going to come up with some critiques and then hopefully do some constructive work to show how on a contemporary sort of modern way of thinking, we can show that Jesus really is God and human, and Jesus really does save.